My heart stopped as I read the text from Ethan. I want a divorce, 20 years of marriage, and this is how he tells me. I stormed into the living room, my hands shaking. What the hell is this, Ethan? He looked up from his laptop, his face a mask of indifference. It's exactly what it says. Valerie, I want a divorce. Why after all these years? Why now? My voice cracked, betraying the emotions I was trying to hold back. Ethan sighed as if this conversation was a mere inconvenience. I've been having an affair with Natalie, my coworker. We're in love and I want to start a new life with her. The room spun around me. Natalie, the young pretty blonde, who always seemed to be at Ethan's side during company events. How long I managed to choke out 6 months, and before you ask, yes, she'll be moving in here soon. I need you to pack your things and leave. Rage boiled inside me. This is my home too. Ethan, you can't just kick me out. He stood up, towering over me. I can and I will. This is happening, Valerie. The sooner you accept it, the better. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the man I loved, the father of my children, was nothing more than a selfish, lying bastard. What about Olivia and Emma? Have you thought about how this will affect them? Ethan's jaw clenched. They're adults now. They'll understand. I laughed bitterly. Understand that their father is a cheater, that he's willing to throw away their family for some young fling enough. Valerie, Ethan slammed his fist on the table. I've made my decision. I want you out by the end of the week. I stared at him, my heart shattering into a million pieces. You'll regret this, Ethan. I promise you that. I turned on my heel and walked out, slamming the door behind me as I climbed into my car. I couldn't stop the sobs from racking my body. How could he do this to me, to our family? I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind racing with questions and fears. Where was I go? What would I tell Olivia and Emma? How could I face the humiliation of being cast aside for a younger woman? As the sun began to set, I found myself parked outside Sophia's house. She opened the door, her eyes widening as she took in my tear-stained face. Val, what happened? I collapsed into her arms, the words pouring out of me. Ethan, he's leaving me for his coworker. He wants me out of the house. Sophia held me tight, her voice fierce. That bastard, I always knew there was something off about him. Don't you worry, Val. We'll get through this together. He's not going to get away with this. As I cried in my best friend's embrace, I knew she was right. I would fight for what was mine. I would show Ethan that I wasn't some weak, pathetic woman he could just toss aside. He had no idea who he was messing with. This was just the beginning. I walked into the house, dreading the conversation I was about to have with my daughters. Olivia and Emma were sitting at the kitchen table, their faces buried in their phones. They looked up as I entered, their expressions unreadable. Girls, we need to talk, I said, my voice trembling slightly. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Is this about Dad's new girlfriend? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You know about Natalie. Emma rolled her eyes. Of course we know, Mom. We're not stupid. Dad's been spending all his time with her for months, and you're okay with this? I asked, incredulous. Olivia shrugged. Why wouldn't we be? Dad's happy. Natalie's nice. And honestly, Mom, it's not like you've been around much anyway. Her words stung. What's that supposed to mean? You're always working. Emma chimed in. You're never here for us. Dad's the one who's been there taking us to school, helping with homework. You're too busy with your precious clients. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, my own daughters turning against me. I work hard to provide for this family, I said, my voice rising. Everything I do is for you girls. Olivia scoffed. Yeah, right. You just can't stand the thought of Dad being happy with someone else. You're selfish, Mom. You always have been. Tears pricked at my eyes. How can you say that? I love you both more than anything. If you really loved us, You'd want us to be happy, Emma said coldly, and we're happy with Dad and Natalie. We don't need you. I felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. My own flesh and blood siding with their cheating father, and his mistress, Ethan, put you up to this, didn't he? I said, realization dawning. HEK been poisoning you against me. Olivia stood up, her face twisted in anger. No one put us up to anything. We're old enough to make our own decisions, and we've decided we want to live with Dad and Natalie. You're not welcome here anymore. I stumbled back, my vision blurring with tears. You don't mean that? Emma stood beside her sister, her arms crossed. We do get out, Mom, and don't come back. I fled the house, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I collapsed onto the front lawn, sobbing uncontrollably. How could everything have fallen apart so quickly? My husband, my daughters, my entire life all gone in the blink of an eye. As I lay there consumed by grief and betrayal, a small spark of anger began to grow inside me. Ethan had done this. He had turned my own children against me, manipulating them for his own selfish gain. And now Natalie, that conniving little, had played along, pretending to be their friend while she tore our family apart. I picked myself up off the ground, wiping away my tears. I wouldn't let them get away with this. I would fight for what was mine. I would make them pay for what they'd done. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number of the best divorce attorney in town. Hello, this is Valerie, I said, my voice steady and determined. I need your help. My husband has been cheating on me, and he's turned my daughters against me. I want to take him for everything he's got. As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. I would come out of this stronger than ever, and Ethan and Natalie, they would regret the day they ever crossed me. I sat in my attorney's office, my hands clenched tightly in my lap as he reviewed the documents I'd brought him. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, all evidence of Ethan's betrayal. Well, Mrs. Thompson, he said, looking up from the papers, it seems your husband has been quite busy. I nodded, my jaw tight. He's been siphoning money from our joint account for months. I had no idea until I started digging. My attorney, a sharp-eyed man named Jack, leaned back in his chair. And what do you suspect he's been using the money for? I let out a bitter laugh. His little fling with Natalie, of course. Fancy dinners, expensive gifts, weekend getaways. He's been living it up while I've been working my ass off to keep our family afloat. Jack nodded, his expression grim. I see. And what about your shared assets, your home, your investments? I swallowed hard, remembering the conversation I'd overheard between Ethan and Natalie. He's planning to use everything we've built together to start a new business with her. He wants to leave me with nothing. Jack's eyes narrowed. Not on my watch, he won't. We'll make sure you get what you're entitled to, Mrs. Thompson. Every last penny. I felt a surge of gratitude towards this man, who seemed to be the only one on my side. Thank you, Jack. I don't know what I'd do without you. He smiled, but there was a hard edge to it. Thank me when we've taken your husband to the cleaners. Now, let's talk strategy. For the next hour, we pored over the evidence I'd gathered, building a case against Ethan. Jack was confident we could prove not only his infidelity, but also his financial misconduct. He would pay for what he'd done in more ways than one. As I left the office, I felt a sense of purpose coursing through my veins. I would not let Ethan destroy me. I would fight back with everything I had. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. How it go? With the lawyer. I quickly typed out a response better than I could have hoped. We going to make Ethan regret the day he ever met Natalie. Her reply was immediate. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you, Val. You're a fighter. I smiled, feeling a rush of affection for my best friend she had been my rock through all of this, never wavering in her support. I don't know how I would have survived without her. As I climbed into my car, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red and puffy from crying, my skin pale and drawn, but there was a fire in my gaze that hadn't been there before, a determination to see this through, no matter what I thought of Olivia and Emma, my precious girls who had been so easily swayed by their father's lies. I would show them the truth. I would make them see the kind of man he really was. And Natalie, that conniving little snake, she thought she could just waltz into my life and steal my husband, my family, my everything. Well, she had another thing coming. I would expose her for the gold-digging H-wrecker. She was as I pulled out of the parking lot. I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I had a long road ahead of me, but I was ready for the fight. Ethan and Natalie had no idea who they were dealing with. I was Valerie Thompson, and I would not be broken. I sat across from Jack, my heart pounding as he slid a folder across the desk. "We've got him, Valerie," he said, a triumphant gleam in his eye. "The evidence of Ethan's infidelity and financial misconduct is irrefutable with trembling hands." I opened the folder, my eyes widening, as I took in the contents photos of Ethan and Natalie, and intimate embraces receipts for lavish gifts and hotel stays bank statements showing large transfers from our joint account to Natalie's personal one. It was all there laid out in black and white. "He can't wriggle out of this," Jack said, leaning back in his chair. "We have him dead to rights." I felt a surge of relief followed quickly by a twist of anger. "I want him to pay Jack for everything he's done to me and our family." Jack nodded, his expression serious. "He will, Valerie. I promise you that." Just then, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. I glanced at the screen, my stomach dropping as I saw Sophia's name. "I'm sorry I have to take this," I said, stepping out of the office. "Val, have you seen the posts on Facebook?" Sophia's voice was tight with anger. "What posts?" I asked, my heart sinking. "Ethan's been spreading lies about you, saying you were the one who cheated, that you're an unfit mother. It's all over social media." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "That bastard?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "He's trying to turn everyone against me. Don't worry, Val," Sophia said fiercely. "I've been setting the record straight, posting about what a lying, cheating scumbag he is, and I've got the receipts to back it up." I couldn't help but smile at the thought of Sophia going to bat for me. "You're the best friend a girl could ask for." "You know that damn right I am," she said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. "Now tell me what your lawyer said." I filled her in on the evidence Jack had uncovered, my anger growing with every word. "He not gonna get away with this, Soph. I won't let him, damn straight," she said. "You're a fighter, Val. You've got this." I hung up the phone feeling a renewed sense of determination. Ethan could spread all the lies he wanted. I had the truth on my side. I marched back into Jack's office, my head held high. "Let'n do this," I said, my voice steady. "I'm ready to file for divorce." Jack smiled, a glint of admiration in his eye. "I'll have the papers drawn up immediately." Ethan won't know what hit him. As I left the office, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for the fight. Ethan had picked the wrong woman to mess with. I drove to Sophia's house, my mind racing with plans and strategies. She opened the door before I even had a chance to knock, pulling me into a tight hug. "We're going to make him pay, Val," she said, her voice muffled against my shoulder, "for everything Hyun's done to you." I hugged her back, feeling a rush of gratitude for this amazing woman who had stood by me through thick and thin. "I couldn't do this without you." "Suf, you know that, right?" She pulled back her eyes, shining with tears. "That's what best friends are for, babe. Now let's get to work. We've got a lying, cheating bastard to take." Down as we sat at her kitchen table, poring over the evidence and plotting our next moves, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I had the truth, I had the law, and I had my best friend by my side. Ethan didn't stand a chance. I stormed into the house, the divorce papers clutched tightly in my hand. Ethan was sitting on the couch, his arm draped casually around Natalie's shoulders. They both looked up as I entered, their expressions a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What the hell are you doing here?" Valerie Ethan asked. Standing up, I thought I made it clear you weren't welcome anymore. I threw the papers at his feet, my eyes blazing with fury. "I'm here to serve you with divorce papers, you lying, cheating bastard." Natalie's eyes widened, her face going pale. "Divorce papers. Ethan, what's going on?" I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "Oh, he hasn't told you. Your precious Ethan has been siphoning money from our joint account to fund your little love nest, and that's just the tip of the iceberg." Ethan's face twisted in anger. "You have no proof of that. It's just your word against mine." I smiled, a cold, triumphant thing, actually. "I have plenty of proof, bank statements, credit card receipts, photos of you two together. My lawyer has it all." Olivia and Emma chose that moment to walk in their faces, confused and wary. "Mom, what's going on?" Emma asked. I turned to them, my heart breaking at the sight of their innocent faces. "Your father has been lying to us girls. He's been cheating on me with Natalie and stealing money from our family to do it." Olivia's face hardened. "That's not true. Dad would never do that." I shook my head, my eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry, baby, but it is true. I have proof he's been manipulating you, turning you against me." Ethan stepped forward, his face a mask of fury. "Don't listen to her, girls. She's just trying to turn you against me. She's the one who's been neglecting this family, not me." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "Neglecting? I've been working my ass off to provide for this family while you've been off playing house with your little girl." Girlfriend Natalie stood up, her face flushed with anger. "Don't talk to him like that. Ethan loves me, and he loves these girls. You're just a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand to see him happy." I turned on her, my eyes flashing. "You shut your mouth, you little home wrecker. You think you can just waltz in here and steal my husband, my family. Well, think again. I'm not going down without a fight." Ethan stepped between us, his face twisted in a sneer. "You're pathetic, Valerie. You really think you can win against me. I've got the girls on my side, and I've got Natalie. What do you have? Nothing." I smiled, a cold, dangerous thing. "I have the law on my side. Ethan and I have the truth you can try to manipulate and lie your way out of this, but in the end, the truth will come out and you'll be left with nothing." I turned to the girls, my heart breaking at the confusion and hurt on their faces. "I love you both more than anything in this world, and I know this is hard to hear, but your father is not the man you think he is. He's a liar and a cheat, and he doesn't deserve your loyalty." Olivia's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I reached out, pulling her into a hug. "Believe in yourself, baby. Believe in what you know is right, and know that I will always, always be here for you, no matter what." Emma stepped forward, her face set in determination. "I believe you, Mom. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." I hugged her tight, my heart swelling with love and pride. "It's okay, baby. We're going to get through this together." I turned back to Ethan and Natalie, my eyes hard and unyielding. "I'm filing for divorce, Ethan, and I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done. You picked the wrong woman to mess with." With that, I turned on my heel and walked out, my head held high. The battle had just begun, but I was ready for the fight. Ethan and Natalie had no idea what they were up against. I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding, as Jack presented our case to the judge. Ethan sat on the other side of the room, his face a mask of arrogance and disdain. Natalie was nowhere to be seen. Your Honor, Jack said, his voice ringing with conviction, we have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Thompson has engaged in extramarital affairs and has misused marital assets to fund his infidelity. We also have proof that he has attempted to manipulate his children and turn them against their mother. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, nodded gravely. I have reviewed the evidence, Mr. Stevens, and I must say it is quite compelling. Ethan's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stood up. Your Honor, this so-called evidence is nothing more than hearsay and speculation. My client is a devoted husband and father who has been unfairly maligned by his vindictive ex-wife. I felt a surge of anger at his words. How dare he try to paint me as the villain in this story? But Jack was ready for him. With all due respect, Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. We have bank statements, credit card receipts, and photographic proof of Mr. Thompson's infidelity and financial misconduct. This is not hearsay or speculation. It is fact. The judge nodded, her eyes narrowing as she turned to Ethan. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to say in your defense? Ethan stood up, his face a mask of righteous indignation. Your Honor, I have been nothing but a loving and devoted husband and father. My wife's accusations are baseless and cruel. She is simply trying to punish me for finding happiness with another woman. I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. Happiness? Is that what you call it, Ethan? Betraying your family? Stealing from our children's future to fund your sordid affair? The judge banged her gavel, her face stern. Order in the court, Mr. Thompson. I've heard enough. The evidence against you is overwhelming. I am granting Mrs. Thompson's petition for divorce, and I am awarding her a substantial portion of your shared assets as compensation for your infidelity and financial misconduct. Ethan's face went white with shock. Your Honor, you can't do this. I'll be ruined. The judge fixed him with a steely glare. You should have thought of that before you chose to betray your family, Mr. Thompson. Actions have consequences. I felt a rush of vindication as the judge announced her ruling. Finally, after months of pain and betrayal, I had won. Ethan would pay for what he had done. As we left the courtroom, Jack pulled me aside, a small smile on his face. Congratulations, Valerie. You did it. You stood up for yourself and your children, and you won. I hugged him, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down my face. I couldn't have done it without you, Jack. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As I stepped out into the bright sunlight, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. The nightmare was finally over. I was free from Ethan's lies and manipulation, free to start a new life on my own terms. And then I saw her, Natalie, standing on the courthouse steps, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. Ethan, she called out, her voice trembling. What happened? What's going on? I watched as Ethan walked past her, his head bowed in defeat. It's over, Natalie. We're done. I've lost everything. Natalie's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. But what about us? What about our future together? Ethan shook his head, his voice bitter. There is no future, Natalie. I'm broke, and I'm alone. You'd better find someone else to leech off of. I watched as Natalie collapsed to the ground, sobbing hysterically. A part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction at seeing her suffer. She had played a part in destroying my family, and now she was getting what she deserved. But mostly, I just felt tired, tired of the lies, the betrayal, the endless fighting. I was ready to move on, to build a new life for myself and my children. I walked away from the courthouse, my head held high. The battle was over, and I had emerged victorious. Ethan and Natalie had destroyed themselves, and I was free. Free to start over, free to find my own happiness. And I knew with a sudden, unshakable certainty that I would. I was a survivor, a fighter, and nothing could stop me now. I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and the remnants of my old life. It had been a year since the divorce, and I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I had a new home, a thriving business, and a sense of peace that I hadn't known in years. But there was still one loose end that needed tying up: Olivia and Emma. They had been distant since the divorce, struggling to come to terms with their father's betrayal and their own role in the fallout. I had given them space, knowing they needed time to heal and find their own way. But now, as they prepared to head off to college, I knew it was time to reach out. I picked up the phone, my heart pounding as I dialed Emma's number. She answered on the third ring, her voice hesitant. "Mom, is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just wanted to talk to you and your sister. Can you come over?" There was a long pause, and for a moment I thought she might refuse. But then softly she said, "Okay, we'll be there in an hour." I busied myself with tidying up the apartment, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach, and then the doorbell rang. I jumped, my heart racing, as I opened the door to find Olivia and Emma standing there, their faces wary and unsure. "Come in, girls," I said, stepping aside to let them enter. We sat down in the living room, an awkward silence settling over us. Finally, Olivia spoke up, her voice trembling. "Mom, we're sorry for everything." Tears pricked at the back of my eyes. "I know, baby. I'm sorry too. I should have been there for you. I should have fought harder to protect you from your father's lies." Emma shook her head, her eyes filled with sadness. "It's not your fault, Mom. We were the ones who believed him, who turned against you. We were so stupid." I reached out, taking their hands in mine. "You weren't stupid, Emma. You were manipulated by a man who was supposed to love and protect you. That's on him, not you." Olivia's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But now we're paying the price. Dad's business with Natalie failed and he's broke. He can't afford to pay for our college tuition." I squeezed her hand, my heart breaking for my girls. "I know, baby, but we'll figure it out together. I've been putting money aside for your education, and we'll find scholarships, grants, whatever it takes. You're not alone in this." Emma looked up at me, her eyes filled with hope. "Really? You'd do that for us, after everything we put you through?" I smiled, pulling them both into a tight hug. "Of course I would. You're my daughters, and I love you more than anything in this world. No matter what happens, I will always be here for you." We sat there for a long time, holding each other and crying, letting the pain and hurt of the past year wash over us. As we talked and planned for the future, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We had a long road ahead, but we would walk it together, my girls and I, united against the world. As they left that night, Olivia turned to me, her face serious. "Mom, I know we can't change the past, but we want to make things right. We want to be a part of your life again, if you'll have us." I smiled, pulling her into one last hug. "Of course I'll have you, baby. You're my family, and nothing will ever change that." As I watched them drive away, I felt a sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't known in years. The future was bright, and I was ready to face it head on. Ethan and Natalie had tried to destroy me, but they had failed. I was stronger than they ever could have imagined, and I had the love and support of my daughters to prove it. I was Valerie Thompson, and I was unstoppable. I stood in the lobby of my new office building, a sense of pride and accomplishment washing over me. It had been 5 years since the divorce, and in that time, I had built a thriving interior design business, surpassing even my wildest dreams. My daughters, now grown and successful in their own right, stood beside me, their faces beaming with pride. Mom, this is amazing, Emma said, her voice filled with awe. You've come so far. I smiled, squeezing her hand. We've all come so far, baby. I couldn't have done it without you and your sister. Olivia nodded, her eyes misty. We're so proud of you, Mom. You're an inspiration to us both. As we walked through the sleek, modern space, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the endless nights of tears and doubt. But through it all, I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to build a life of my own, and I had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. As we celebrated the grand opening of my new office, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and clients, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Sophia, my best friend and constant support, standing there with a knowing smile on her face. Congratulations, Val, she said, pulling me into a tight hug. You did it. You showed them all. I hugged her back, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. I couldn't have done it without you, Soph. You've been my rock through all of this. She pulled back, her face serious. I have some news, Val, about Ethan. I felt a flicker of apprehension but pushed it aside. Ethan was a part of my past, a distant memory that no longer held any power over me. What about him? I asked. Sophia took a deep breath. He's broke, Val. His business with Natalie failed, and he's been struggling to make ends meet. I heard he's even had to move back in with his parents. I felt a twinge of satisfaction at the news, but it was fleeting. I had moved on and built a new life for myself. Ethan's fate was no longer my concern. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, my voice even. But it's not my problem anymore. He made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. Sophia nodded, a proud smile on her face. You're right, Val. You've moved on, and you've built something amazing. Don't let him drag you back down. As the party continued around us, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had faced my demons, confronted my past, and emerged victorious. I was no longer the broken, shattered woman I had once been, but a strong, confident, successful one, and I had my daughters to thank for that. As the night wore on, Olivia and Emma pulled me aside, their faces serious. Mom, we want to apologize, Olivia said, her voice trembling, for everything we put you through, for not believing in you when you needed us most. I shook my head, pulling them both into a tight hug. You have nothing to apologize for, my loves. We all made mistakes, but we've learned and grown from them, and look at us now. We're a family again, stronger than ever. Emma nodded, her eyes shining with tears. We love you, Mom, more than anything in this world. I held them close, my heart full to bursting. I love you too, my darlings, always and forever. As I looked out over the city skyline, the twinkling lights of the buildings below, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I had never known before. I had weathered the storm, walked through the darkness, and emerged into the light. I was Valerie Thompson, a survivor, a fighter, a woman who had lost everything and built it all back up again. And I knew, with a sudden, unshakable certainty, that nothing could ever bring me down again. I had won, and I had my daughters by my side, and that was all that mattered.